Hello, this is JB, and I live in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Today I'm going to talk about my memories of Tucson, Arizona. So, the first time I ever went to Tucson was in 2006. At the time, I was living in North Carolina, and I took this long cross country trip that lasted more than a month. And at the end, for several different reasons, I decided I needed to find a place to stay. And when I got to Tucson, I decided I wanted to stay there. And I liked a lot of things about it when I first got there. I'd never been to a place like that. I had maybe seen a few pictures, but I really didn't know that much about Arizona other than what I had read in an encyclopedia. Because back then we had the internet, but we didn't really use it that much. At least I didn't. And but when I got there, so I looked around, and there's mountains on all sides. You have cacti everywhere, and I liked the downtown area at that time, um, and I liked like Fourth Avenue, which is like the main entertainment district that's kind of near downtown that everybody goes to, especially a lot of young people, but everybody. And I liked the architecture and the neighborhoods. I liked that it had a university, the University of Arizona. I liked that it seemed to be a place where there were people from all around the world. Obviously, there's um, white people, but there's also a lot of Latinos because we're close to Mexico. But there's people from all over the world in Tucson, and I like that because I like to learn about different kinds of people. And so after decided to live there, I applied to. I went to a job fair, and I went for a few weeks to work for this company called Lane Christensen, which was doing mineral exploration. And I went out to western Arizona where there was this old gold mine that actually it was a copper mine, I think, that the company was doing some drilling at because there was a gold mining company that had decided to see if that mine could be reopened and used to search for gold. And I believe the company was called, what was the damn thing called? Can't remember. But but anyway, so I went to work for them for a couple of weeks. But we were basically out in the desert. It's like 120 degrees. It was really difficult and dangerous work. And the person that I was working for, the main driller, he was hopped up on drugs, and he did some things that almost got me killed and other people killed or injured. Bonanza was the name of the project. Bonanza. And so I only worked there for a short amount of time. And that wasn't really for me anyway, that kind of work. Um, just because, I am the kind of person who likes to protect the environment, and that's not something they were doing. They were doing stuff that was against the law. In my, at least it appeared to be. I'm not a lawyer, but it appeared to be because they were like dumping chemicals in places where they were not allowed to be dumping chemicals. And obviously, putting a hole in the ground isn't good for the environment. And driving all through the desert with these big trucks and making a big mess isn't good for the environment. But I actually started working for an organization called the Southwest Conservation Corps. And that organization, basically, they have crews or groups of young people, and these young people go out and work on public lands, and they um, work on projects that protect the environment, and that's more of what I wanted to do anyway. Because in the other job where I just worked a couple of weeks, I mean, it was great because you got to be in the middle of the desert, you got to see all these nice places, and go places where most people would never even think of going, like to the bottom of a mine. We did that just for fun one day. an old abandoned mine. We went to the bottom of it, found these big chunks of copper and like little pieces of gold, but nothing of any significant value that you could sell or anything. But but I like the Conservation Corps because you could go all over southern and central Arizona. We learned about all different kinds of issues like immigration issues, environmental issues, um, the government, politics, all these different things, and how they end up affecting the land. And we did trash pickup. I call it refuse pickup. That people who are coming across the desert from Mexico who were not documented were leaving behind all sorts of things like bicycles and backpacks and clothes and water bottles and all kinds of things. I found IDs. We found diaries. We found money. We found you name it. We found it. And we found a body one time of what was said to be like a 7 or 8 year old little girl. Her bones, and not actually a body, but her bones, her remains, and they had to call the police, and they got that identified. And one time we found a meth lab. I actually found it, and I had to like wash myself down, in the desert, like take a hand shower because they were afraid that I had gotten those chemicals on me. But we also built trails. We built rock walls. We built fences. We built. We installed brick pavers at a visitor center, one place. But the cool thing about that experience was working in a group because we got to meet different people from around the country. We worked together. We got to know each other really, really well. Another thing we did was invasive species removal, and we protected this desert frog by digging out sand from its habitat. It was living in these little pools of water. But we got to know the people in the group really, really well. Worked together, learned life skills. We cooked. We did all sorts of things. One time we went on a day trip. On a day off, we went to some caverns at this place we were working. We went up Mount Lemon, drove up there one time. I wish I still had the picture of that because I was like standing with the whole Tucson and everything in the background. It's a great picture. My mom didn't like it because I had a Miller Genuine Draft shirt on. She was opposed to alcohol. But lots of really cool experiences. And I remember quite a lot of them and think about them quite a lot, especially when I think of Arizona. But I did that for a couple of different seasons, they call them. Basically lasted a couple months. And I was able to get some money to go to college through AmeriCorps. There was an AmeriCorps grant that we earned. They call it AmeriCorps Award, not a grant, because you have to earn it. But so I was able to go to college, and then I ended up living in Tucson. I lived at 3341 East 3rd Street. That's kind of, let's see, what direction is that? No, that's not north, that's east of the University of Arizona. And I also lived at 3357 East 3rd Street. And, just being in Tucson was great. I liked being there, and I liked going to, I took classes at Pima Community College as a freshman, sophomore in college. But Tucson is not a good place to be if you're young, and I wasn't irresponsible, but I liked to drink back then, and I um, what's the right word? I experimented with different substances and stuff like this, and there are a lot of them there. For some reason, Tucson seems to attract people who, it attracts all kind of people, but it also attracts a lot of people who um, are on the fringes of life, shall we say? That you get a lot of people who don't have anywhere else to go, and since Tucson is warm, they can sleep outside and not freeze to death. Most of the time it does get cold sometimes, but there was a lot of that, and I remember like there was a lot of criminal activity that was going on, and I lived in a safe neighborhood, but there was still a lot of crime. At nights, you would hear helicopters everywhere. There were sirens all the time from police cars. Uh, I ended up meeting because of one of my roommates. I ended up meeting a lot of criminals, um, all sorts of things. But Tucson wasn't a place that I could live long term because the jobs didn't pay very well. Um, in the summers, I actually used to go to Alaska because I could make a lot more money in Alaska. Then I would come back and go to school in Tucson. But the jobs didn't pay well. There was a lot of call center jobs back then. Now there probably aren't because we don't really have that many call centers anymore. But there were a lot of call centers and customer service type jobs, not factory jobs that pay more. They have some construction jobs, but they don't really pay that well. Um, but generally, like in Tucson, if you don't have like an advanced degree or something, then you're probably not going to do very well financially. And that was the case back then too. I guess that could have changed over time, but I think that's still true. But I know when I lived in Tucson, I had a great tan. I had a wonderful tan because I was outside all the time, and it's sunny pretty much every day in Tucson. In the summer, there's like they have monsoons, so you get several inches of water in an hour or a couple hours, And the streets flood, they fill up like canals because they don't have drainage systems like most other cities have. Uh, so it can cause a lot of problems when there's a monsoon. And like underpasses, where a street goes under a bridge, those fill up with water, and sometimes people try to go through there and they could get killed. Then they can get swept away. They can get stuck. They can drown in their car. That kind of thing. But but yeah, I enjoyed being around the university. I would go there all the time. Use the library. Use the computers. Every once in a while, I would go to sporting events. But anytime there's a university, there's always a lot of energy. Um, there are events going on, so I would go to lectures sometimes. Uh, Meet all kinds of interesting people at different parties and stuff that I went to. Because when I lived at 3341 East 3rd, I lived with a bunch of graduate students, even though I was a freshman or sophomore in college. And they introduced me to all kind of people, and they took me a lot of places too. We went hiking a lot. One of my friends named Cody, he he took me up some really big mountains. Um, Rincon Peak, Mount Wrightston, uh, Miller Peak. Uh, we just went different places other than that. And hikes, went Sycamore Canyon down southern, like south of Tucson. But that's a great place to be if you like to be outside, if you like to explore, if you like to hike and climb mountains and do all that. It's a great place to be. I will always remember my time in southern Arizona because I was around 20 when I got there, around 22 I think when I left there, and I have been back a few times since. I really enjoy that because of what Tucson means to me and the fact that I liked living there because of the location, the weather, the city, everything. One thing I can tell you about Tucson though is it's very big and it's very spread out, and I mean you can drive like an hour and something and not even leave the city, depending on what direction you're going and all that. But yeah. I mean you can go just outside Tucson, like on the other side of a mountain, where you don't have any city lights, and it gets really the sky. It gets really bright. It's very easy to see, like satellites and comets and shooting stars and all that, which is cool. And you feel, I don't know, it just feels different. You feel like you're way away from everything, even though you're actually pretty close to the city. But the lights from the city don't mess up the view of the sky. Uh, so that's a neat thing to do. But yeah, if you have any questions about Tucson, there's so many other things that I could say about it. So many memories that I have and things that I learned there and great things about the city that I could share. Um, but I'll do those and I'll do those things in other videos. But any questions you have about Tucson, ask them below, and I will answer them, either or probably both. Uh, I'll respond to your comment, and I'll also make another video so that I can share what I know about Tucson. Thank you for your time. Have a good day. Bye.